Cover the no fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Our guest for today is Katelyn Magnuson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, super excited to chat with you. So Katelyn is the founder of the Freelance CFO LLC, an organization designed to help millennials and beyond master their money knowledge and grow their financial freedom. She believes that you can automate your money to hit big financial goals and still buy the latte. It is her mission to help millennials everywhere release financial frustration and embrace complete success. In this interview, we're going to be discussing the 5 things all current or aspiring entrepreneurs need to know to handle their business like a pro. I love this. This kind of rhymes. So before we dive in, I'd love to know more about your business and your journey. Start wherever you want.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to do a very brief synopsis of my high school and younger years. I ended up being really great at math and was bused to the high school when I was in middle school and was kind of a little bit of I wasn't an outcast. I just had a weird kind of, I floated around, but math was always really easy for me. And my parents always thought, and I also really, I can be very persuasive. And they're like, you're either going to be a used car salesman or a lawyer. And they always meant that as an insult. But I considered law school for a long time. And it's really ironic because taxes and the legal system have so much overlap. So like taxes and accounting and legal. But long story short, I ended up not going because I got really tired of going to school. I love it, love school, but don't really want to go back. And when I went to college, I ended up working for a small mom and pop business. And in doing so, really got to do everything, all of the bookkeeping, the shipping, the packing, the ordering, like you name it, and there were 3 of us there. The 2 of them were owners and then myself. And I got a really deep dive for what an impact that I could have in such a small business. I'm not just another cog in the wheel of a multi-thousand, employee company where I'm siloed into this one area. And thanks to TikTok and, everything else, I've realized that a lot of my ADHD has really helped with my entrepreneurship. You look back and I was always felt a lot of pressure to, stay in the corporate world. And I did. I bounced around in the corporate world for almost a decade. And through that was able to get sales tax experience, payroll experience, work comp experience, accounting and bookkeeping experience. But I kept going back 3 different times, actually. I left corporate to go work for small mom and pop businesses because I really liked making that impact. And there was so much more variety in what I got to do. And so I ended up unemployed unexpectedly in 2015 when one of the mom and pop businesses sold to another person. And the unemployment department was like, hey, we don't think you're going to get another job that pays this well at your age and in your demographic. Keep in mind, I'm the primary earner in my family. So that was like, okay, great. So I'd had my business, really truly as a side hustle. I was working so part-time with it because my jobs had been consuming what I was doing. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, it's time. We have to make it's sink or swim. We need to go full time with this. And I did. And it has been a crazy ride, really, because I get to do, not only am I running my own, business, but I'm also helping other people run theirs. And it's something that I feel so privileged to do because I get this, sort of backseat view to the behind the scenes of what's going on in all of these businesses that no one else gets. And being an entrepreneur, I think sometimes can be isolating or lonely at times, and no one else necessarily gets it. And so for me, it's really good to be able to hop in their finances and be like, no, what you're doing, this is normal. This is industry standard, out of my clients, this is what we're seeing. This is a really good thing. And that has been such a true pleasure to be able to do and to be able to help sort of assuage fears and doubts and provide guidance. And then all that corporate work that I did really comes into play with where I'm at in, helping small businesses because I have such a diverse experience. So the Freelance CFO has had several different names over the years, but we have settled on this for the last, I think we're going on 3 years now, and it really fits. And that's what we do. We offer freelance bookkeeping services, accounting, we also offer on the personal side, how to make sure your personal finances are together, getting retirement accounts set up, really all getting out of debt, managing debt, doing a budget, all of that. And we actually hired a couple of employees this year since you and I had last talked.
Yeah.
We are just like, what we're doing is amazing this year. And that feels so, conceited to say, but it's amazing. Like, things have just exploded.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you so much. Like, sometimes entrepreneurship can feel so lonely. And the fact that you're here to support other entrepreneurs and millennials and just, like for me personally, money and finance and bookkeeping, oh gosh, like it's just, I don't really get it. But also I've got my accountant, like he manages everything. And I'm like, you know what? I should know more, but I don't. Which actually leads me into my first question for you. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this, but why is it so important for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to understand money and finance to be able to succeed in their businesses? And what are some common challenges or troubles that you see entrepreneurs run into when it comes to finances as well?
Yeah. So one of the most important reasons is when you move, assuming you've been an employee, if you move from being an employee to, being self-employed, beforehand, a lot of the numbers were taken care of, right? You just needed to make sure that whatever your paycheck was what you could live off of. And that's not quite the case. And I work with a lot of, business owners that are getting started that will get really frustrated because maybe they hit their first $100,000 year. And, that's the 6-figure year. It's such a big benchmark. And you hit that and you're like, but wait, I still don't feel like I have money. And that's because for business owners, you have to separate yourself from the idea that what the business makes is what you bring home. And so understanding your numbers, understanding the taxes, understanding what you can take as profit, how you need to price yourself, how all of that comes together. I'm not saying that you need to be a tax expert, but you need to have the basics down because at the end of the day, with it being lonely, with it being you so much of the time, the buck stops with you. Like, you can work with someone, you can absolutely educate yourself, you can outsource it. But even if you have an accountant working with you, if you're, spending every single dollar that the business makes, there's only so much that an outside perspective can give you. So you can have the knowledge, but you have to have the knowledge and implement the knowledge. And I think that's much more important for small business owners than for people that are, traditionally employed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually very true. I think that's actually very important. And I'm grateful that you brought that up. So now that we know that it's important, so do you want to share with us the 5 things that entrepreneurs need to know?
Yeah, I would love to. So the first one is pricing. And this actually, is a perfect segue because when you're pricing yourself, I really recommend, especially when you're getting going and you're not sure, like you may have an idea of market rates, assuming that you're offering a service. But what I really recommend too is you have to figure out what do you need to support yourself. So especially if you still have, a 9-to-5 or other side hustles or other income coming in, this is really good to do before you jump ship if possible. And with that, you need to look at what you need personally. So let's say you need $5,000 a month to support yourself in your bank account. I really recommend that you double that for what your business needs to make. That's generally a little bit more aggressive than what most people need, but then without a doubt that you should be pretty comfortable. What happens when you do that? So in this case, it would be a $10,000 a month, which can feel really overwhelming, especially in the early stages. But what you do is you take that and break it down by what that looks like hourly. So let's say that you work, we're not going to recommend this, but you want to work 40 hours in a week, the traditional work week. And those are 40 billable hours. So if you were to take that $10,000 and divide it by the 40 hours times 4, so 160 hours in a week, that would give you a really good hourly starting point for what you're needing to do. And you can actually build some of your services around that. So maybe, if you're a virtual assistant, you're going in and you're looking at that and you're like, oh, I don't think I can get, we'll just say $75 an hour right off the bat. Okay. Can you offer packages that aren't tied to hours that might take less than that? Can you offer, more of an online business manager service? Like, where can you specialize to hit those numbers? Most times though, people don't realize that you shouldn't be planning a 40-hour billable work week if you're self-employed, because you are your marketer, you are your customer service provider, you are your bookkeeper a lot of the times when you're getting going. So I really recommend trying to plan about a 20 to 30 hour billable week. When you're first getting started, 30 is probably a lot more common, but the goal would be to get kind of around that 20 mark. And that for most people feels really good. It gives you freedom and flexibility, but it also still provides, the dollar value that you need to be able to live and support yourself, and you can build from there. So those aren't hard and fast, but that's a really good starting place.
I think, sorry, just to jump in here quickly. I think that when it comes to pricing, a lot of the time, like I love what you talked about, breaking it down to the hourly rate. But for new entrepreneurs or even aspiring entrepreneurs, I feel like it's a very common issue to not know exactly, like, you're not comfortable with pricing what you should be pricing. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people tend to undercharge their hourly rates. Do you have any suggestions? Or I know this is kind of off topic, but getting through that money mindset and being able to charge what you're worth, kind of thing. Do you have any tips or strategies that you could share with us about that?
Yeah. So the number one thing that I recommend is every time you land 3 clients. So let's say, because there's a big spot with, money mindset that if you're not going to, like, let's say the $75 example I gave, if you don't feel that what you're providing is worth $75 an hour, one, there's some limiting beliefs to work through there, because assuming that you're providing value, there are people that charge thousands of dollars an hour for what they do, or, it breaks down to that. Keep in mind, that is covering your health insurance, that is covering, if you're paying for it, it covers your PTO, it covers your sick time, it covers your expenses, it covers subcontractors. So think about it as like, this is not $75 in your pocket, but also I want you to think about, hit that dollar value that feels like a little bit of a stretch. So if you feel, for example, I really feel like I could charge 35. I feel like people would pay this. Way under market rate for this example. But if you believe that you can charge it, start there. Start there, book a small client or whatever, do that, whether it's project-based or whether it's every time you bring a new client on, every time you get 3, I like to work kind of in 3s, increase your prices. Okay, I've landed 3 people at 35 an hour. We're going to go to 40 or 45 an hour. And then keep doing that until you get to the point, because you're proving to yourself, like, A, you've proven to yourself you can get clients. And then B, it's kind of, you dip your toe, like, what's the next kind of slightly scary dollar value? And what you'll probably start to find is, and I'm not going to say, this is 100% true. The clients that pay more tend to value your work more, but I also think that you will show up better when you feel like you are being compensated, because there's kind of this catch-22. And also make sure with that, because here's the biggest problem with that method, you'll end up with these clients. If you grow really quickly, you'll have some clients that you're charging $75 and some clients that you're charging $35. Make sure that you have something in place to help raise their prices as you go, or have some sort of a contract. Like, this is your rate for 3 months, and then we're going to step it up each time you go, because otherwise you may find yourself really resentful of those first clients that helped you get going.
I cannot agree with this more, actually, because in the very beginning, when I just started my agency, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I just started, I'm going to charge something so little that it's like nothing, and it's so not worth my time. But I'm going to do it because it's I'm just starting out. And then as time went on, I realized I started just not giving a crap. I was like, I started to just not give a crap with, the tasks that I was doing, the things that I was managing. And then over time, it became, like you said, it's a resentment, because I didn't want to spend time on those clients anymore. And, it's you're doing yourself and your client a favor to charge a little bit more, or charge the price that you're worth, right? Because otherwise you're just going to be stuck there being like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I'm not getting paid enough for this, and that's not good for either your client or yourself. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
Well, and I think the biggest thing with that, though, is that it's not the client's fault either. Yeah. Right. If you set your prices, I think I've absolutely caught myself in that loop, when I was growing really rapidly and raising prices, where I'm like, you get a message from them and you're like, I don't want to answer this. I don't want to do it. Nothing was wrong with the client. Yeah. They were fine. They were lovely to work with, but I was so in my head and so resentful. And I catch it much earlier now, and I have a better system in place to do it. But yeah, it's just something that I think almost every business owner and entrepreneur goes through when they get going.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's such a great point. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive into the
number
second,
2. Second thing. So keep your business account separate and your business finances separate from your personal. And this is so important. Like, I cannot tell you enough, for several reasons. One, we talked about knowing your finances. Understanding your finances. So many of us are like, I'm just going to start this like side thing and sell this. I don't know if it's going to be a big thing. I don't want to set it all up until I do that. That's fine, but open a free checking account. Even if you open like a free personal checking account that you run all of your business stuff through, you can put, $100 in or whatever you need to get started. Every single sale and every single expense should come through that bank account. Even if, like, say you get paid, $500 and you immediately move that money to your personal account, that's totally fine. That money is yours, but it has to run through that account, because what happens then, if you haven't done your bookkeeping during the year, or you ever need to, say you grow really rapidly and you need to outsource to someone, it lets you at the end of the year pull a whole report from that account, and everything in there is business. Because I've had clients that had it, oh, well, I had it on like these 3 credit cards and this, these 2 checking accounts and this savings account. And, it took them like hours and hours over the course of like a month and a half to pull all of their transactions. And then I'm sure that they were missing some that they just didn't know that they were business, which means they're paying more in taxes. So one, from a tax perspective and an outsourcing perspective, keeping them separate is really valuable. But 2, because it's so frequent that we think that we may be doing really well, right? Like, oh, there's money in the bank, we've been moving it over. But until you sit down, and I recommend reviewing monthly or quarterly, depending on how fast you're growing, but look at what you made, look at where that came from service-wise, and then look at what your expenses have been and what you actually brought home. Because if you're, busting your backside for, $500 a month, and you're working an extra, 30 hours, is that worth it to you? Like, that lets you make educated decisions. And you can also look at your service offerings or your products that you're selling, and you may be surprised by which ones are selling the most, or selling the most, but taking the least effort or time, which means they're the most profitable. Sometimes people, I feel like, will think that one of them, like I had a client who was going to discontinue one of her swimsuits. She was a swimwear vendor, seller. And she's like, well, yeah, it's just been around, for 10 years. I think I'm going to discontinue it. And I went and pulled all of her data. It was her highest selling swimsuit.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it sold the most year over year, which means you got to purchase it at the lowest quantity, which also meant it was the most profitable. And so when I brought that to her attention, she was like, oh, I guess I just, I didn't, like, it wasn't even there. So it helps bring that to your awareness.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think also from not just, later on when you've been an entrepreneur for like a year or something, like you said, it's so important from day one to just do that, because otherwise it's going to take you hours and hours, if not even longer, to separate everything later on, right? So yeah, super important. Okay, third thing.
Okay, number 3, register your business. And this one comes after separating your bank account, but they could technically be reversed. But for most businesses, when you're getting going and you're testing the waters, I do the free checking thing first, run it through there. Once you've made kind of $5,000, or you've really committed to this being something that you're going to be doing, register your business. And if you're in the US, I really recommend, for most places, doing a single member LLC. Single member LLCs tend to be really cost effective. They're normally about the same price as being a sole proprietor. They allow you to have protection, which I really like. That's the whole point of the limited liability that LLC stands for. And with that, you also have to have a separate bank account, and you have to run everything through that in order to protect your personal assets. So the whole point of the LLC is that it basically puts a bubble around your business. And that bubble is like, well, everything that happens in here, is business related. So if a client were to sue you or something horrible were to happen, the goal there is that they wouldn't be able to come after a spouse's assets, or like your, car or your house or something else that you had. But those protections disappear almost completely if you don't keep a separate bank account. And the bank account has to be like with the LLC and that whole thing. So that's step 2 or 3, depending on which order you want to do them in. I have some clients that are like, oh God, I've already been doing this for 2 years. Like, I'm going to register and open a new bank account and do it all now. But registering, whether it's a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, in the States, is definitely worthwhile. And it also, I've had a few clients that I've worked with. One of them was a little bit older. She was really established. She'd been in business for 20 years. And she's like, I've never felt the need. I just do what I do. It's fine. And she did it. And she almost doubled her revenue the year that she did it, because it was a mindset shift. She was now, it wasn't just this like thing that I do. It was, I'm a business. And it was such a subtle change. But she actually wrote me to email me and say, like, I can't tell you how much of a difference this has made in my life, because she was taking everything so much more seriously. So there's that side of it too.
Yeah, no, that's actually such a good point. That's actually funny, because it's kind of why I started my company and like registering it into a proper company, because I want to take it seriously and, that mindset shift and just be like, okay, I'm ready to take it to the next level and bring my business and make it more professional, not just for me personally, but also in front of other clients, right? So that is, yeah. Okay, the number 4.
So number 4 is to outsource and hire before you think you need to.
Oh my God, I love this. Sorry.
So I feel like we're all so guilty of doing this and waiting too long, or, whether it's control issues or financial issues, or, no one else can do it quite like me. All of these different things will pop up. And I feel like I have become the outsourcing queen. We're going to kind of not Marie Kondo it, but to an extent. Do you want to learn it? Are you good at it? Does it make you happy? And is it the best of your time? Mm-hmm. And if you can say yes to really like at least 2 of those, I feel like, then you should be looking to outsource it as soon as you can. And I want to kind of reframe this, because sometimes people will be like, oh, but I don't have the budget right now. Okay. But I want you to pause and think. If you hired a VA right now that could do, I don't know, client management or client emails, or, handle course creation. Maybe you're creating courses, right? Can they handle all of the back end for you? What would that cost per hour to pay them to do that versus what is the cost of you doing it right now? Maybe say, it's $25 an hour or whatever it is that they charge. You could pay them that. Like, I know that I can pay someone to do the exact same thing in the same number of hours, and I'll still make more money, because if my hourly is higher than that, no brainer. Also, if I hate doing it, kind of a no-brainer. But the third side of that is I don't do any website design. Like, my website's only on Squarespace. It's not anything crazy. I could totally get in there and make some modifications. It would take me easily 3 or 4 times longer than it would take someone that does that for a living. So then how much more of my time have I wasted? How much more of my income earning potential have I wasted? So by doing that and by hiring out in whatever aspect you feel comfortable with. For me, like, I haven't hired out for any sort of content, like email content, social media, until just recently, because I didn't feel like someone could get my voice and the content that I was doing, but I could hire almost everything else out that I needed to in my business. And so I did. And I found great people. They're not all going to be great. They may be great and also not be a good personality fit. And that's kind of the flip side of this. Don't be afraid to move forward if it's not a good fit. It's not easy, but like hire, not everyone's going to be I was going to say Prince Charming, your glass slipper, but with that, also understand that hiring a professional one time can save you a ton of money and get you set up correctly. So lawyers, accountants, even doing a consulting session. Hey, this is my unique situation. What should I know? And where's my next milestone? I do that for people all the time so that they're getting started. They're like, I don't have the budget to pay you regularly, but like, let's get started. And then they know, okay, when I hit $50,000 or XYZ, I know this is my next step. And they've then saved themselves so much worry and agonizing that they're able to move forward with a lot more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I couldn't have said any of that better. Like for me as well, outsourcing, it's a hard step because like you said, the financial part, like the mindset part, it can be very difficult to let go of your business, like your baby, that one thing you've been holding on so tightly the whole entire time, and let someone take care of it for a bit. But being able to do it can really change your business. And I can go on and on about this forever, but let's move on to the 5th thing.
Okay. The 5th thing is mindset. And money mindset, but also mindset in general. I think, again, especially as entrepreneurs, it is vital to be working, not necessarily to improve yourself, but to know yourself and understand yourself the best. Because I think we all inherently, have such different paths that we're on and different interests and different things that light us up. And the self-awareness that comes, like, I work on my mindset a lot. I've hired coaches to do that. I work with a therapist. I work with a performance coach. Like for me, it's really important to understand. And again, some of these have been really recent, just as my income has increased. But when I was getting started, mindset and limiting beliefs and challenging beliefs that were held. And I think that can be done for free, actually, a lot of the time. Follow really great creators. Like, there are people that talk about manifesting and talk about abundance and talk about gratitude and, mindset and just what you can be doing on a daily basis. But also protect the energy that you're taking in, and this is a little woo for like the whole accounting side of things, right? But with that, if you're following a bunch of people on social media that are negative, that are unsupportive, that are, you don't have to only, follow inspiring accounts, but like, I'm not going to follow weight loss accounts. I don't find those inspiring. Those aren't lighting me up. They're, people that they're not in the sphere that I want to have. And so I follow accounts that I resonate with, but also that I look at as being kind of my higher self or my next self. And with that, identifying one of my biggest limiting beliefs was or, not and, but
What?
or, O-R. You can have this or that, but you can't have it all, right? I think that's a really common. One of mine was, I want to have animals and a farm and property and travel. How are you going to do those two? Well, I've turned a lot of those ands into ors. I had a business coach 5 or 6 years ago challenge that. And she's like, no, I want to live a life of ands, not ors. And let's see how we can reverse that. And so much of it is just being cognizant of those thoughts that come through and challenging them, yourself, flipping them. Like, where could this not be true? Where are there examples? How many people do you know that have 4 or 5 houses, that you see in the media? They're living this life of ands, that are traveling or that are, living a nomadic lifestyle that, people may not think is like, there's so many different varieties. You just have to find what your ands are.
No, that's so powerful. That's actually such a great way to kind of change your perspective and just kind of understand that such little things, like such little mindset shifts, can truly help you, not just for your business, but also your life, and just like steer you towards the right direction to kind of set yourself up for success and making sure that you're moving towards your goals, right? And your vision for what you want your life and your business to be. So yeah, mindset 100%, so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing those 5 things.
Yeah.
If an entrepreneur is thinking, okay, these are such great tips and I'm going to take action today or tomorrow or this week to, make shifts for my business, what's the first thing you recommend they should do first? Yeah.
Assuming that they already have an established business. I really like this question, but assuming that they already have like an established business, side hustle, etc. I would start with the list. And where do you fall on that? Which one of those steps have you done? Do you have a separate bank account? If not, get one. Are you registered? If not, register. Have you consulted professionals? Like, do you have holes in your business that need to be fixed that are on that? But the biggest thing that you could really do, I think, is to understand your numbers and then to reach out where you have holes. So do you, I have, again, website, huge knowledge gaps with graphic design. I will always, phone a friend and be like, hey, I need help here. Like, this is where things are missing. So I think depending on your individual business, take action from the list, but also take action wherever there's a hole in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing what's working for you right now and focusing on those, right? The 20-20, the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
Like, focus on the things that are bringing you money. Stop wasting time on things that you might enjoy, but not moving your business forward. Because I think we're all guilty of this, right? We want to create pretty graphics we're going to spend like hours on it and be like, oh, pretty graphics, but is this really helping you? I'm not sure. Maybe you can outsource it. Maybe you can find templates to kind of streamline that process. There are many, many things that you could kind of minimalize in your business, and you should focus on the things that truly move your business forward. Yeah.
Yes, move the needle forward. And I think that make money. I think that a lot of us will get stuck in that, not necessarily perfectionism, but to an extent, you're wanting to do the graphics, you're wanting to have the website, you're wanting to have everything laid out so it's nice and pretty and perfect. Whereas what can you do today? And actually, this may have been a better answer to the question. What can you do today to make money, to make a sale, to take action, to move the business forward? Because you can always do all the pretty things or have someone else do the pretty things later. But like, where can you actually grow the business today?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, love this. Before we start wrapping up, I know you have a free special gift for us. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I have the Ultimate Business Finance Checklist, which we're working on. The name, it's such a mouthful, but it really is the ultimate checklist for business owners. And what that does is it has daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly tasks. They're just one little page. I think we're going to figure out something so it's like mobile friendly in the future. But for now, it's in there, and it lets you just kind of go through like what things should be on your radar that may not be. Are there quarterly estimated taxes you need to be paying? Like, have you registered? Have you checked your accounts? Have you done your receipts? So all of those little things just have a guideline. And that also say, if you've been in business for a little bit, it gives you a good place to kind of see where those holes are. Oh yeah, I've got, 30 or 40 or 50% of these handled, but I didn't know this. And it also kind of cues you throughout the year, like, okay, it's November. I should be making sure my books are wrapped up, if your fiscal year ends in December, so that you can pass those off to your accountant. So it's just a really good guideline to kind of bring awareness to where you're at and then what's going to be upcoming.
Perfect. And before I let you go, do you mind sharing where people can connect with you online?
Yeah, of course. So Instagram is probably where I live. I feel like that's very millennial of me, but it's at Katelyn Magnuson. And then I'm also on Facebook at the Freelance CFO. And then I have a free Facebook group that is attached to that. So I'm in and on all three of those really frequently.
Awesome. And I'll put all the links in the description box for anyone and everyone that should be connecting with Katelyn. Thank you again so much for being on your Entrepreneur Resources show. I love all the tips and strategies. The 5 things are so actionable. And for entrepreneurs that's listening, in case you want to get a summary, a summary of the interview, make sure to check out our show notes. We have our live interviews with experts here twice a week, so make sure to stay tuned and join our community. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon and have a great rest of your day.